keep on kissing babies and hugging fat girls. You are a sniveling little suck-up sellout full of suffering succotash, son.
It's me, Austin! Oh, son of a bitch! What? It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
And you t-shirts are too tight too, Billy! And you book a match with me against Ryan Keelan! Look at me! I'm a total package! I will rip him apart! I'm pissed now!
Where to, Stephanie?
WrestleRoasts on ad-free shows and ATC.
All right, welcome everybody to WrestleRoasts and the roast of AJ Styles. Happy Yom Kippur, Michael Lawrence and Robert Karpolis. How are you guys doing?
I just broke my fast, and after a day of apologizing for horrible things, I get to start a new list of shitty things I've done, starting with AJ Styles.
Yeah, how does that work? Is it like AA? Do you have like a list of stuff you got to get through?
They kind of guide you. They give you like a broad, like it's good because they give you a list of all the different things, and it starts with small things like being a jerk to your parents and goes all the way up to murder. So as long as I don't get close to the murder piece, I did okay the last year.
I mean, it's like AA in that no one really follows it and you make up your own rules.
Anyway, I'm waiting for my apology, Robert. So's your hairline. Zach, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I went to AEW last night, and that was pretty great.
Oh, nice. Did you see Scott?
I did not. I had no idea he was going.
Gotta love the brotherhood camaraderie we have here on the show.
So when we review Dynamite, let's get Zach's thoughts then. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, before we get into the show today, the roast of AJ Styles. Some roasts coming up. We got the Honky Tonk Man next week with comedian Kevin McCaffrey, who's hilarious. Gangrel, Darby Allin, Abdullah the Butcher with Zach Amico, Alexa Bliss, and Kane. If you're a patron, and I really do think we have the best patron deal. You get like 3 or 4 extra shows a month. This week we're going to be doing WrestleMania 2, and we're also going to be reviewing Scott's review of Dynamite. Scott is not on the show today, but he sent us a 20-minute recording of him talking about his time at Dynamite.
So prepare to fast forward.
Yeah, look, I'm just glad Scott can do 20 minutes. Next we got Scott's hilarious. What? No, I don't know. It was just the easiest joke. He's hilarious. Check him out. He's actually doing a show tonight, so check him out.
Build a time machine because we're recording this on a Thursday.
Yes,
near in front. Go back to last night and go listen
to the Stress Factory in New Jersey. All right, then we got Extreme Rules the week after, then the roast of Alberto Del Rio, Halloween Havoc 1993 off. I'm changing it from Wrestling's Darkest Crimes because I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
To Wrestling
show about that.
What?
I said there's already a show about that.
Yeah, it's like we don't need it. And so Mike, you know what I'm doing instead? Wrestling Spookiest Stories. All
nice.
Of wrestling ghost stories. Which I didn't know there were some, but I guess there are.
We just read the balance sheet from WWF 1995.
The roast of Nick Gage in November, then World War III. I've never seen a World War III before. We're going to review one of Robert's shows that he booked on MLW. And he'll tell us why AEW is an inferior product. QT Marshall, the wrestler, we're gonna do for our big Thanksgiving episode. Then we're off. Then we got the roast of Ryback. We're going to review TLC, then Jingle All the Way to, we're off for a week for Christmas, then the day one review and the roast of Inoki. So a lot of really, really fun stuff coming up. We have a 5-star review. Join our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Talk about us on Reddit. We have t-shirts now on both WWE Creative-ish, which is Robert's store, and the WrestleRoast store on Pro Wrestling Tees. So check it out.
And our first November roast, I'll be happy to announce if you'd like.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
The master of arithmetic himself, Scott Steiner.
Oh, hell yeah. Dude, did you see NXT this week? Did you see his son?
Yeah, Rick's son. And
we're not allowed to say that that's Rick's son. We're going to get heat from Vince. That was his big edict.
It's Braun Breaker. I don't know who Mr. Breaker is, but yeah, one of the fucking worst name changes.
Firebreaker Chip is his father.
Look, the name change sucks, but the guy's got something.
No, he's great. And Rex Steiner is a cool fucking name.
It is a cool name, and he just reminds me of like I don't know, man. He reminds me of like those old school like New Japan matches where it was these big dudes going against like Kobashi and shit like that.
So, like a Scott Norton, a Stan Hansen kind
of. He reminds me. That's a great point. He reminds me a lot of Scott Norton, and I fucking love me some old school Scott Norton.
A lot of Scott Norton. I know, like when he was doing that little goofy promo with LA Knight with that smile, a little bit of early Goldberg, that like maniacal smile of like a dude where not everything's going on upstairs, but he's gonna probably fuck you up.
Yeah, and 100 times better of a worker than Goldberg already. So,
and speaking of great workers,
AJ, there we go. Mike's trying to get the show on the road. We're going to talk about the bright side of AJ Styles, and this could be 2 episodes. AJ is one of the greatest in-ring wrestlers of all time, in my opinion. Him and Samoa Joe, for a decade, they were the what-if guys. If they had gone to WWE, you know, we could have had a real golden age between, you know, Cena, AJ, and Samoa Joe all together, I thought. Redefine wrestling. He made all that indie shit look good. You know, like, I think that, like, sure, it's great to do a Canadian destroyer off the top rope, but he's the guy who kind of put the story together in, you know, he put the moves between the moves. Consummate professional. You can't really find a bad thing to say about the guy unless, you know, it's the gay stuff. Even in the Punk internet feud, he didn't look terrible. And as far as like, you know, kayfabe accomplishments, I mean, great feuds with Cena, Roman when he was a babyface, Dean and Ambrose, Randy Orton, The Undertaker, even though it was silly as fuck. Samoa Joe, you know, like, you know, this is I'm sorry, WWE. And then, you know, as far as like outside of WWE, Nakamura, Naito, Tanahashi, you know, his triple threat match with Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe, his stuff with Kurt Angle at TNA. You know, he was the Bullet Club. He was 2-time IWGP champion, 3-time NWA champion, 2-time TNA champ, 6-time X Division champ, Pro Wrestling Illustrated Wrestler of the Year 3 years in a row, #1 in the PWI Top 500, Ring of Honor Pure and Tag Champ, Rolling Stone.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe this is real, but we not only got a handicapper, but we got the best ever. So I got to ask, how are you so good at handicapping these games? I mean, 4-0, that's quite a streak already.
Well, you know, let's talk about every pick I've given this year in the NFL as an example. 23-8. Every pick I've given this year. 4 weeks in the bag, 23-8. There's nobody in the country that can match what I do, but I always make sure, because anybody, Conrad, could make up anything. They could tell you and blow smoke and tell you, oh, I'm the greatest. But I am independently monitored and documented, so nobody could ever question what I say and go, I don't believe it. I send every pick to an independent monitoring and documentation service that has to get the pick before the game goes off and then publishes it after the game goes off so anybody can see what I gave. And those picks for the year, every NFL pick so far, 23-8. And I think it's because I do more homework than anybody else. You know, the average guy or gal watching this podcast, they don't have time. They have a career, they have jobs. They might read the newspaper or go online and see something, but they don't have time 80 hours a week to study the games. That's what I do. And I have a crew of guys behind me, my consultants, who every week we get together 3 times a week and they throw their ideas at me. I throw my ideas at them. And then I pick the final 5 plays on Saturday and Sunday in college and pro football. So, I mean, I've got a great team behind me too, but we're all doing together hundreds of hours of homework. So you don't have to. It's all at vegaswinners.com.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to vegaswinners.com right now. Let's win some money.
Wrestler of the Year, Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, 2-time Wrestling Observer Wrestler of the Year, 2-time WWE champion, Intercontinental champion, 3-time US champion, and Raw Tag Team champion. He's one of the best, man. I mean, he almost got Shawn Michaels out of retirement. That's how good AJ Styles is. And turns out The only person who could do that is
Prince Muhammad.
Is Prince Muhammad. Yeah, I was about to say. Mike, what do you think about AJ Styles?
Yeah, man, he's fucking great. Like, even when the other that company sucked, he didn't. And I think a lot of times it's even more impressive, like when someone's like great in a bad movie. You know, he was Dennis Hopper in Mario Brothers for 12 years. He was Raul Julia in Street Fighter. No, man, he's fucking awesome. And even when he came, you know, like to WWE in 2016, it was, a little late. Maybe it could have been earlier, but it was still great. I remember
he was awesome that year. I mean, he made SmackDown.
I was at a Royal Rumble party. It was 2016, and he just, you know, he shows up, and everyone fucking lost it. And, you know, look, he's still there. I got to see his first match at MSG, and you could see what that meant to him. That was pretty awesome. Yeah, physically, like, everything makes sense. You know, the amount of trust that they put into that guy, and rightfully so. I mean, motherfucker got James Ellsworth over. But he, you know, like, it's like almost so like we have to push this because Vince, we trust you. You know, he's a guy that can jump anywhere on the card, and his thing works. His segment works. You know, he opened a fucking WrestleMania with Shane, and it was watchable. That's how good.
Dude, that was a really good match. I mean,
it was great. Yeah, I mean,
probably my favorite match on the card, honestly.
Yeah, I'd give AJ a lot of that credit. I think the guy is a real artist, and just fun to watch. And you know, and I always say, if it applies, and it definitely applies here, fucking awesome to play as in the video game. The phenomenal forearm is hard to pull off in those WWE 2K games, but if you can, it feels so fulfilling. And the Styles Clash is one of the coolest finishers ever. It looks like it fucking hurts. It's awesome.
And if you don't tuck your head in right, it sure does.
Yeah. It's pretty painful looking. And I mean, yeah, those X Division classics. I mean, I'd heard so much about that Daniels Joe Styles match from 2005. And, you know, words don't do it justice. It really is, like, of all that type of match, it's the best that type of match.
Robert, you an AJ fan?
I am an AJ fan. I think it's impossible to be a wrestling fan and not be an AJ fan. What's most impressive about this guy is everything about him that shouldn't work. He's short. He's Southern. He didn't deliver a good promo for a long time. And now he is one of the best, if not the best, 4-quadrant wrestlers that there are. You can give him anything in any situation: babyface, heel, comedy match, serious match. He delivers a great promo in his own way. He learned how to be a better storyteller outside of the ring. Inside the ring, untouchable. I think it's one of those guys where almost any match you put AJ in became a dream match. It was why I was so excited when he made it to WWE, because the biggest frustration was watching somebody this talented toiling away in TNA, where they had a lot of great wrestlers for him to work with and still found ways to screw it up. Those initial matches with Daniels and Joe, and then stuff with Kurt, was so good that when I was on creative, we would pull those DVD recordings and watch them voluntarily, not because it was helping us make a better show. It was, we got to see this. All we do is hear how amazing this is. I heard about how amazing his Ring of Honor stuff was every time he showed up there. He's a guy who loves wrestling. He excelled in New Japan. He was willing to go do PWG shows. Now I feel like I'm fucking Excalibur. When he showed up in WWE, there were so many feuds lined up that were going to be dream matches and dream feuds. And when he had them, they were great. And he elevated guys like someone like John Cena and made him better. He was the guy that Undertaker wanted to work with at WrestleMania for that Boneyard match. And even though it wasn't a wrestling match, it was a cinematic match, it was still really entertaining. He's one of the best heels of the last 5 years. He's one of the best baby faces of the last 5 years. He plays both those roles really, really well. And even though I'm a little frustrated now with him being a tag wrestler, and I feel like you're not getting the most out of him that you can, when he is in there, he always over delivers. And it's that cliche of the dude's 44 years old and he still feels like he's in his prime. you still feel like you've got another several years of great AJ Styles stuff before he starts to slow down into older grandpa mode.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. I mean, I just saw him in the ring with Lashley, like in a tag match 2 weeks ago, and he made Lashley look like a killer for the couple minutes that he was in. I mean, we forget that, like, you know, the planned Survivor Series main event, I think it was like 2016 or 17, was supposed to be Brock and Jinder. You know, like that was what they were gonna close with, and like a week beforehand, they called an audible, and we're just like, we have to do AJ and Brock. And then to Brock's credit, I mean, Brock gave AJ a ton in that match, and that match is a 5-star match. AJ versus Cena live was probably my favorite match I've seen live, as far as like excuse me, like how insane the crowd was, like how, you know, like it just like the from the first moment when AJ faked Cena out and did the clap thing to him, like, you're not on my level, like it just felt like magic, that entire match. It was unbelievable. Really, really, really phenomenal stuff. Zach, are you an AJ guy?
Yeah, AJ Styles was the gate that took me from being just a WWE fan my whole life to learning about other wrestling. That's the first guy I discovered outside of the WWE, and yeah, I owe my pure wrestling fandom to him in a lot of ways.
Interesting question here, Mike. If you're going to start a company, if you had a choice between, and in their prime, right, CM Punk or AJ Styles, who would you pick to start the company?
CM Punk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, AJ, the in-ring is better, but the connection with the crowd and that charisma, and, you know, I'm a promo guy. I prefer promos. Oh, and since, you know, Scott isn't here, he had a great New Japan run and was a member of the Bullet Club. There. We fill the void.
Robert, who would you start with, Punk or AJ?
I think Mike's point is valid. Punk was better at connecting with the crowd in terms of promos. It's why I said the one thing that was lacking in AJ's game for a long time were his promos. He was just the guy that went out there and had great matches. And depending on what your promotion is going to be, if you want to run a Ring of Honor, yeah, you sign AJ Styles. You want to have a mainstream major company, you're going to want to go with CM Punk. But it's sort of an unfair comparison a little bit. Yeah. It's more of, do you go with AJ or Joe?
Right. No, that's true. And that's a question I can't really answer, honestly. That's a tough one. That one's very tough.
Well, they're both like really great, but I don't think could be like your big stars, you know? Yeah, they're going to have a great match. They're going to give you the main event you paid for. But in terms of, if I want my promotion to be crossover successful, if I want it to get a new audience,
I think Joe could have done that, though. I actually do think Joe could have done that, but they just...
The name is terrible. Samoa Joe?
No, but he was a great promo, man. I mean, he had that great feud with Angle, and then they totally fucked it up. That was TNA. As much as we shit on, you know, WWE and WCW for fumbling stuff, like the stuff that TNA fumbled is pretty awe-inspiring. If you look back at what their roster has been over the years, it's pretty phenomenal.
Hey, Florida Robert, do you think Samoa Joe is a bad name?
I think it works just in the sense of, I'm so used to hearing it that you forget how weird it sounds. It's the same way hearing CM Punk. What the hell does that mean? That's the weird thing about wrestling. Sometimes you get names and you hear them and you're like, if I heard this in any other capacity, I think this is stupid. But here it's like, yeah, Samoa Joe works. It just seems like it's been around for so long. I'm just used to it. Would I have picked it off the?
Oh, sorry.
No, I was saying, if I picked that off the bat, no, I would have gone with what the hell is Rex Steiner's name?
Ron Breaker.
Yeah, I love how they should name guys just based on stupid things that popped into your head. Like Kenny Dykstra was because Brian liked Lenny Dykstra. And they're like, well, let's just name him that. Okay. Sometimes it's nonsense like that, and then you're just stuck with this name, or you're Kerwin White because the director is named Kerwin Silfies and he's a super white guy, and we're like, well, that's a really white sounding name. We'll make him Kerwin White.
Wonder if they're going to bring him back in AEW. They already have Chavo. Just put some new white paint on him. All right, do you guys?
They don't have enough white people on their roster, Dan.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I was thinking about that. I was like, these guys. We say we want about WWE, but they do have a pretty diverse roster.
Enough racial sensitivity. Let's talk AJ Styles.
Yeah, exactly. The roast of AJ Styles. Mike, you want to pick the order?
Yeah. How about you go first, Robert?
Oh, all right. The roast of AJ Styles. AJ Styles believes the world is flat, but to be fair, he also believes TNA has a world title. AJ Styles doesn't like the gay community, though his hairstyle says otherwise. AJ Styles' clothing says "Make America Great Again," but his hair says, "I'd like to speak to your manager." AJ was born in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and grew up in Gainesville, Georgia, but he's still 100% Florida man. AJ's family was too poor to afford TV. How poor do you have to be that think getting to watch pro wrestling is a rich man's extravagance? And before you ask, yes, AJ believes humans and dinosaurs coexisted, but enough about his time in WCW. AJ Styles spent time in Ring of Honor, but eventually refused to work with them because of Rob Feinstein. Not because he's a pedophile, but because AJ found out he's a Jew. AJ Styles and Samoa Joe had a series of classic matches in TNA, which Vince mistook for footage of Jackass where Wee Man was being chased by an angry fat guy. While in TNA, Styles was a member of so many failed stables, he should have opened a glue factory because glue is made from dead horses. And pretending that anything that happened in TNA matters is like beating a dead horse. I watched a lot of Norm Macdonald before writing these. Sorry. AJ competed in New Japan Pro Wrestling and doesn't give a fuck about how much of his theme song you play when he comes out. Steve Austin called AJ Styles the best wrestler on 2 feet, while the best wrestler off their 2 feet still remains Tammy Sitch. In the WWE, AJ Styles and Chris Jericho formed a tag team called Y2AJ. Sadly, due to scheduling conflicts, they were unable to reunite this past January at the Capitol riots. Finally, AJ Styles feuded with Nakamura and Daniel Bryan, and both feuds revolved around low blows, which once again proves my theory. People like seeing AJ Styles get kicked in the nuts.
AJ Styles, everybody. Mike, you want me to go next?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Roast AJ Styles. AJ Styles is what would happen if Guy Fieri could fuck. In TNA, he was the one Christian you rooted for. He grew up in a trailer park with a drunk dad. He's basically what would happen if Mike Lawrence discovered nutrition. The most amazing thing about AJ isn't his in-ring ability, but that he's able to get his hair to look like that without the help of a gay. His promo style is used car salesman outsmarting Kenny Powers. Somebody on the radio said AJ had a gay following, which caused AJ to say, "Where? Are they behind me?" He has the tattoos of any stripper I've ever had a shot with. He's a great dad, except when it comes to helping his kids with their homework. My science presentation is Moses versus the Triceratops. He was scared to take 5 stars from Dave because he thought that meant he couldn't go to heaven. AJ tagging with Almost is the blind side for people who think Biden won because they canceled Paw Patrol. If you combine CM Punk's beliefs and AJ Styles' personality, you'd have almost a good hang. He's proof that anyone can succeed if they hone their craft and don't go on podcasts to give their real opinions on Nyla Rose. He spent years supplementing his income by driving an ambulance, which in TNA counts as health insurance. At Ring of Honor, he feuded with the Backseat Boys, which sounds like the world's creepiest Dark Side of the Ring episode. He always acts like a cartoon cat just got the better of him. He's the kind of guy who makes his kids pray before McDonald's. The ultimate styles clash was the time Sonny Kiss stepped foot in AJ's church. A lot of people think the worst thing about AJ is that he's a flat earther, but that's only because he hasn't told us he thinks the Black Lives Matter final boss is Candyman. I'm just trying to make a Candyman joke work, guys. Still working on it. Mike Lawrence, everybody.
All right. On demand today, Friday, Candyman, fun movie. Okay. AJ Styles. Today we're roasting AJ Styles, the Shawn Michaels of our generation that actually believes in Jesus. Bound for Glory is just the reward he thinks he gets if he bombs an abortion clinic. To many people, he is the greatest wrestler in the entire flat world. The problem with flat earthers is that you could try to give them scientific evidence, but they don't want none. They don't want a flat earth, Jesus Christ. The only thing he doesn't believe in is wearing a mask to prevent COVID. Actually, the only theory that he has fully had disproven that he believes in is that Anderson and Gallows are a fun tag team to watch. AJ is the only wrestler I know that's both a member of the Bullet Club and the NRA. He doesn't think people of the same sex should love each other because it's unnatural. Says the guy who wrestled in a 6-sided ring. Now that's an affront to God. If it wasn't for him, TNA would somehow be even worse. Samoa Joe is injured and fat now, but back in the day, he had some great classics with AJ Styles when he was uninjured and still fat. He's from Gainesville, Georgia. Yes, somehow there's a worse Gainesville than the one in Florida. Gainesville is so southern that the black population is just almost whenever he comes to visit. He loves rap, but has the haircut of a woman that calls the police on a cookout. He's a big fan of Christian hip hop because someone has to be. He calls himself the world's greatest Christian rap expert. Hey, AJ, it's not an accomplishment if no one else wants it. That's like bragging that you're a multiple-time TNA champion. He could have a 5-star match with anyone in the WWE, but chose only to have those with Cena. He's the only guy who tattooed the names of his kids on his chest in case he forgets them. The name of AJ's first kid is AJ, spelled AJAY. And he will always love his son as long as he isn't a gay. Finally, he had Undertaker's last match. For now, Michelle McCool can still ask for a divorce, and we'll see the dead man walking. That's it for me.
The rest of AJ Styles.
RIP to Norm. I know you mentioned him, Robert, and I couldn't help but think of him when I was writing some of these jokes. And if I shouted the punchlines, that was a tribute to one of the funniest people ever.
Yeah, man. Let's talk about that for a second. I forgot to open with that. And also Scott Chaplin's review of Dynamite's coming up later in the episode, guys. For all you Scott heads out there. Norm Macdonald, man. I mean, he's legitimately the funniest guy in comedy ever, I think. It's this one was tough. This week was actually really tough. Usually celebrity deaths don't really get me, but I don't know. It just felt like this was not to sound melodramatic, but it did kind of feel like pure comedy died, when Norm died. Like he was just one of those guys. He just figured it out, man. He's just, he's very, he's the funniest guy in the room filled with funny guys. He's your comedian's favorite comic. And I watched Dirty Work again, still laughed out loud 2 nights ago. I just bought a special again. Can't wait to watch it again. This is the one he did in 2011 with Comedy Central. Guy was a genius, man. Best weekend update anchor ever. And I know so many people have worked with him and have such high praise to heap upon him. It really sucks because like I could have definitely gone for another 20 years at Norm Macdonald. So
yeah, man. I don't know if I'd be doing this podcast without him and writing roast jokes and like his deconstruction of the roast at the Bob Saget roast is one of the funniest fucking things ever. Where I mean, because I really feel like to me the definition of a comic's comic is someone who doesn't care if the joke works. They just like telling it. And I mean, that is Norm to a T. I've been watching a lot of late night appearances. The moth joke with Conan is one of those very specific, like he's having a blast. And then because he's having so much fun with it, you do too, but he's there first. It's just a fucking genius of a dude. Let's be honest, like getting fired from Weekend Update for calling OJ a murderer. Well, now he's a hero. That's a pretty like brave, ballsy thing. Just such funny jokes. I mean, Dirty Work is one of my fucking favorites. Hello, Real Cops is one of the funniest lines to me ever. There's so many great lines in that movie. I watched all of those SNL starring movies in the theater, and that's my favorite one. He's a fucking irreplaceable guy, and the fact that there is so much content, like hundreds, if not thousands of hours of him just churning out funny shit is unbelievable.
Best panelist ever in my mind.
Yeah, and I would absolutely, and I would say if you guys do like us and you don't know much about Norm, watch the 1998 ESPYs.
Yes.
Him hosting is one of the funniest fucking things. I don't even know much about sports, but I know awkwardness, and it is amazing. And he's having a blast. It's so fucking awesome.
As the non-comedian, but definitely the comedy nerd of the trio here, grew up with. I mean, he was my favorite Weekend Update anchor as a kid growing. I mean, that was the appointment viewing when watching Saturday Night Live, was seeing Norm do Weekend Update. It was a litmus test for whether or not I was going to get along with somebody in high school if they liked Norm Macdonald or not. That moth joke I posted on my Facebook page when he passed away, just because it's another litmus test. It's people either see this and think this is absolutely hilarious, or they're going to look this, what the hell is it? In which case, all right, we think on different wavelengths here. There was a video a few years ago. I went down a rabbit hole one day. It's all of his Letterman appearances back to back. It's like 45 minutes long. It's absolutely brilliant because you watch the evolution of his comfort level doing this, from first being, I'm on Letterman and I'm being interviewed, to I am the master of this domain. I know exactly what I'm doing here, and I'm in complete control. And it's an absolute joy just to sit and watch those. And then just because I keep seeing it, it was a legendary clip for years. I always loved when he was on Conan with Courtney Thorne-Smith making fun of Carrot Top.
Oh my God, it's the greatest thing ever.
One of the funniest things ever.
Box office gold.
But yes, it's not even
poison.
It's not even box office poison.
Because
box office poison works. But then when Conan challenges him, when they say the name of the movie and it's chairman of the board, what are you going to do with that, funny man? Is board spelled Bored? And Conan loses it, and it's absolutely incredible.
What's even better is like, because I just watched it today, but he's like, "What are you going to do with that, you sick freak?" Because the entire time he's been like interrupting and everything, like, and he's overtaking the interview. And to Courtney Thorne-Smith's credit, she's a great fucking sport, and she's there to promote this movie. Yeah. and like one of the first jokes, he's like, "Wait, you have sex with Carrot Top? 9.5 weeks? Is it 9.5 seconds?" But then when he does the BORED, it's just the funny, like, she fucking loses it. Conan loses it. It's quick. It's so fucking quick. Like, it's immediately. And I truly believe that, yeah, there's no way Norm knew the name of that movie going in.
No.
Oh, there's no way. And, condolences to Sean O'Connor, Frank Sebastiano, some of the really talented guys who work with Norm. And yeah, man, he's a huge loss. This is probably the biggest comedy loss that I've, of a guy I didn't know, at least, sucks.
Yeah, not since we lost Bill Cosby have I felt this sad. and that's a Norm joke. You would appreciate that.
Well, folks, not to raid on the Norm parade, but let's do something completely different, and that's Show in Hell. We're talking Claire Lynch, everybody. It was the TNA answer to Katie Vick. If you haven't seen this, here's the background. Is originally they were going to do like a Dixie Carter, like affair storyline with AJ, which kind of made sense, except for that, I think like fucking Dixie Carter on screen was death. She was always really bad. I mean,
yeah.
Like I don't know who's worse, her and Tony. I guess she's worse just because she's been on more, but really bad.
That would have been closer to Katie Vick of watching him fuck a corpse.
Yeah.
the Dixie Carter makes Linda McMahon look like Sherry Martel. That's how bad.
It's real bad. But they, I guess they pivoted because, they were not happy. I guess the members of Dixie Carter's family were unhappy that she was being used in that angle and
spending all of their money.
Spending all their money. Yeah, I think they got annoyed at the wrong thing. So they switched it to AJ having this drunken affair with a woman by the name of Claire Lynch, who then ended up quitting because of online abuse from TNA fans. And she also wanted to scrub her history because she was trying to make it like as a series actress and a pretty girl. And the whole joke was like she was ugly, which didn't make like any real sense either. Wow. It's a disaster. I mean, I don't know if this was, I don't know if Vince Russo was with the company at the time. I think he was. And I want to shout out to Wrestling Regret for doing the research so I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Because they like, because I could not have, like, I did not want to watch all these clips. Yeah, man, it was, I mean, it's one of the worst things I think we've watched on Show in Hell, which is saying something. Would you say it's top 5 worst things we've seen on the show, Mike?
It's pretty bad. I mean, it's just, this is that it's very Russo. This was 2012, I think. This is like the shit I didn't like about the Attitude Era, and AJ wasn't a great performer at the time, so you don't even have like a Rock or Austin type to carry it on charisma. And then the heels are Kazarian and Daniels, who are great, but it's just they're not even like that fun. They couldn't save this basically. And yeah, man, I looked into this story because I also watched the Wrestling with Regret. I had to fast forward through that because it was that uncomfortable.
I did too. Stuff. Yeah, about 12 minutes in, I'm like, all right, let's get to the last minute.
Yeah, but so this woman's name was Julie Riley. And
Oscar nominee Julie Riley after leaving this.
And she lived in Orlando because when they taped at Universal Studios, I think she had played Olive Oil before this, in the Popeye Land or whatever.
Oh man, that's even sadder.
The Popeye, right? And but she does and still does like a lot of presentations for corporate companies, like like she'll show off their products and things like that, and that's like the bulk of her business. And she even had a page for that then, and that's what happened was on her website, shitty wrestling fans just said the worst, what wrestling fans sound like, said the worst fucking shit like on her site.
It went back and forth between people saying the angle was terrible and then people calling out her character as if she fucked AJ in real life.
Yeah, and shitting on her, and it's like, yeah, she did what was asked of her. She is not the problem with this angle. And then she leaves the company, and the amount of people that just like shit on the way that she looks and stuff like that. It's like, no, she left out of safety and to save her career because this was not going to do it. And did the smart thing. And then, they shat on her. This had to have been Russo because this was 2012.
It doesn't seem like there's a world in which it's not written by Vince Russo.
Yeah, this is like Joker Sting era. I think this is was it Fortune and
Definitely worse than Fortune and Joker Sting.
because this was Bischoff and Hogan era, man. This I mean, that's the thing when we were talking about how great AJ was, and he still had great matches at this time, but like when you think about those mid 2000s and the potential of this company, even, and then that pivot just it fucking sucked.
Yeah. So on How I Met Your Mother, they found out that Robin was a Canadian pop star in the 90s, but sounded like she was in the 80s because Canada got the 80s a decade later. TNA got shitty Attitude Era storylines a decade after. And
are you saying that Claire Lynch is the Robin Sparkles of wrestling?
I wish she was as good as Robin Sparkles, but the problem is this is why TNA was so fucking terrible. You don't do a storyline like this with a guy who doesn't need a storyline and doesn't do these well. This is what you give someone to cover up the fact that they're not a great wrestler. AJ Styles, there was no good that was going to come from this storyline. It's not like this was going to be the story that was going to turn the tide in the war with the WWE, where people were going to be engrossed by a soap opera of whether or not AJ fucked this woman by exploiting the fact that she was in recovery, which was another part of this. And this story went on and on and on, and is the worst impulses of Vince Russo and TNA. The strange thing about doing research for
if you're working for TNA, you're just by default in recovery.
Oh, no, you're not in recovery. You're still active. You're working in a theme park, getting stuff off the janitors. The thing that was so weird was looking at AJ's Wikipedia page of TNA is a lot like if you watch Loki and there's all these variants in these other worlds. Like, I didn't even remember some of this shit. I'm looking, I'm like, oh yeah, there was a feud with him and Rob Van Dam in TNA that went for like 3 months. Just, it's all blacked out. I remember there being Fortune. I don't remember all the other stables he was in. It's like this company that exists on like another planet and yet still somehow exists. And some poor idiot had to write this Wikipedia page of all the stuff that happened to AJ, when if you ask most wrestling fans, what did he do in TNA? It's the triple threat matches, it's the X Division, and it's Claire Lynch. That's how bad this story is. This is one of the only things most people know about AJ's TNA run.
Pretty rough, man. Pretty rough. But something that wasn't rough is last night's Dynamite, baby. Scott isn't here. He will be giving his boots on the ground review. Zach, you were there, so you'd love to fill us in. Hour one, Adam Cole versus Frankie Kazarian, MJF promo, FTR versus Matt Sydal and Dante Martin. Aleister Black cutting what I thought was going to be a really fun promo and is ruined by Rosario Dawson and Cody Rhodes, and damn Lambert Mania to set up the Rampage match between Jake Hager and Chris Jericho and the Men of the Year. My first note is CM Punk is phenomenal on commentary. Like, he is so good and he outshines everybody. I mean, he's even better than Excalibur, and I think Excalibur is good, but he everything about him on commentary, man, it's like the opposite of Jericho. He gives genuine insight. He knows what all the storylines are. He knew what all the moves were. He was funny without being completely overpowering. He just that was my takeaway from the whole show was like, I could listen to this guy talk about wrestling for 3 hours straight. Like, I would love a CM Punk podcast on wrestling, which I'm sure he would hate, but it was that I thought was my highlight of the first hour. What did you guys think of this first hour, Robert?
So my overall note for the show, because I'm going to be positive, I thought this was a really good show in that almost every single segment on here advanced storylines going forward. That's a huge positive for AEW, something I've been critical of in the past. It felt very vignette heavy, a lot of pre-tapes, a lot of talking, not a ton of matches overall. Minor nitpick, just something I'm throwing out there. Adam Cole, Frankie Kazarian was a really fun match. I feel bad for Frankie because they're giving him this elite killer and he's completely ineffective. Like, he can't take out anybody. And it was a good back and forth match. Punk made it really good on commentary by pointing out Adam Cole is the reason he got into this business, yada, yada, yada. There's something hilarious about
Is that true that Punk was the reason Adam Cole got into the business?
That's what Punk said, and he doesn't seem like a dishonest man, and I don't want to get sued. So CM Punk's a good guy. I like that.
Thanks, CM Punk.
I like that Fuego del Sol is putting his Hyundai on the line against Miro.
I actually love that. I think that's
fantastic. The thing that kind of bugged me for the Cole thing was he's the one that issued the challenge for the 6-man tag, which doesn't feel like a shitty heel move. It's kind of like, why am I booing this guy who just beat the guy who claims he's the elite hunter, and now I'm calling out these other 3 guys to have a 6-man tag? It's not a heel thing. It just, that struck me as kind of odd.
He's babyface heel.
He's a babyface heel in a lot of ways.
He's like Kevin Owens, man.
He's a heel to Mike Lawrence, but that's about it. Obviously, you want me to get into the MJF thing?
Yeah.
So MJF cuts a promo on Brian Pillman, and he used a promo that I wrote for him in MLW. And it's why I love MJF more than any wrestler in the history of fucking wrestling at this point. It was something we did with Stewart. He was
you should get fucking free tickets for that shit, right?
I'm sure if I wanted, I was talking to him today. I'm sure if I wanted to go to risk, they're coming down here to Miami, I'm not risking COVID. Bless their hearts. But it was something we worked out when he was feuding with Tyson Kidd or
tell him to do the show. Tell him to do our show.
I think he's slightly busy, but maybe one of these years he'll come on and just, bury Scott for being Scott.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't want to watch Scott come. That would be horrifying. But we were doing a feud with him and Teddy Hart, and he had to go out there and cut a promo in Chicago. And he's like, all right, what do we do? And like, why don't you cut a promo to Stu saying you're going to finally put an end to the legacy of the Hart family? He's like, all right. He's like, so I'm like talking to him. I'm like, yeah, I want you to look up like you're talking to him in heaven, and then realize, no, that's not where Stu Hart is. Then I want you to look down at hell, stomp on the ground, and cut the promo to Stu Hart in hell. And we tell this to Court, and Court's like, it's great. You just got to get Teddy Hart's permission to make sure he's okay with it.
He told us this, but yeah.
And Teddy's like, I don't give a fuck. So then that's pretty much the same promo that he did here with Brian Pillman in hell, which was absolutely incredible. It was so much fun. They're doing the best they can with Pillman Jr. to make him seem like something. So that was, I like that. That's fun. I liked FTR and Seidel and Dante Martin. Seidel and Dante Martin's a fun little tag team. This was one of the more fun FTR matches because Punk on commentary made them seem like a real killer team. I really enjoy. Again, he makes everything better. And then they talked about the Suzuki incident, which I'll leave Mike to have a feast on that. Malachi Black and Rosario Dawson, not since Clerks 2 has she ruined something so badly. And then Cody, who hasn't been there for months, is okay that they beat up Arn and his kid and his brother and most of the factory. But when you go after Rosario Dawson, who jumped the barricade, that's a bridge too far.
She's the linchpin of the Marvel Netflix universe. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Arn Anderson isn't getting fucking Cody's reel shown to Stanley Jr. or whoever the fuck is in charge over there. Kevin
also,
Feige.
The Dan Lambert thing. The weirdest part for me, I'm not a huge MMA guy. I watch it, but I'm going, that's Paige Van Zandt, but they're not acknowledging.
I don't know why they didn't make a bigger deal on that.
She's one of the biggest stars that there is, and I'm going, and I'm not even paying attention to his promo at first. I'm just like, that's definitely her, but they're not saying it's her. Is there another woman who's America's top team?
They need to sign her ass, dude.
They need to sign her yesterday, especially after watching the Layla Hirsch match. But we'll get to that. But Jericho was doing his shtick. It's a weird mashup that it's them and Men of the Year, but I guess you need somebody to pay off with this storyline. So why not use him and Hager?
Well, if there's one sentence you could use to describe this show, it literally was full of shit. I think they said it 20 times, ad nauseum.
I had that later. Yeah.
Stop. They said it a lot. I like this show. It definitely was a utility episode. It was more about setting up next week. And a part of me is okay with that in the sense that where it was is close enough in proximity to Queens that if you want to see both shows, you can, because this show really was in service to that show. And I think it should have been. So that's fine. I mean, look,
if you're brave enough to go to Newark, you're going to go to Queens.
Yeah. Cole's fine in the ring. Yeah, man, I don't buy him as a physical threat. I don't buy him. as a great. Everyone keeps telling me he's this great promo. Name me one great line last night. There wasn't one. And then, and also,
he's had some awesome promos in NXT, dude. Like his
hasn't had one
promo
here
against
yet.
Karrion Kross. You didn't see that one with Karrion Kross? It was awesome.
He is, yeah. Well, he hasn't had one here yet. It's story
Been here
time
for 2
with
weeks.
Actually, Christian had the better line than him. When Christian goes, you're already used to losing the Wednesday Night War.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, come on, Christian. I mean,
that was. He was
Let's
instrumental in beating NXT.
Dan, you shut up and give that dog his bone. All right. No, I mean the Bay thing, I guess, like people like it. I don't get it in character. It's not a great line. I mean, it's also stop putting him in proximity, like close to MJF promos, because he's always gonna look like a mid bitch. To quote MJF. In comparison, he's not a great heel because people like him too much, and he leans into that. I just did. There was no heat in his promo for being a heel. I don't get him.
Now, Mike, I want to get your take on the most important issue, which was the Suzuki incident.
I thought that was fun. You know, that's CM Punk being like, "Yep, I'm on the same threads that you are." You know, he was the right person to do it. I mean, if JR did like a Walter Cronkite, we apologize profusely for the Suzuki incident, it would have been sad. But the way that Punk did it, where it was very tongue-in-cheek, I liked. I mean, I agree with Dan. Punk was great on commentary. The line he had about Dan Lambert, that Bobby Heenan, if he only owned Affliction shirts, like, was really fucking funny.
It was, but I wouldn't compare Dan Lambert to Bobby Heenan ever.
It was a good line.
It was a good line.
Maybe the no mouth years.
Even then, Heenan just by blinking was more charismatic than Dan Lambert.
Yeah. And then Fuego de Sol, you know, I don't mind this, but it's like Sammy's still in the background. Like, I just want to see Sammy be in the spotlight already. And it's like, he was kind of the gopher for the inner circle.
I think they're going to do Sammy Miro next.
I hope so. I mean, I was really hoping we get Kingston, Miro in Queens, but I think that the tag will be fun. And then Seidel should be taking those pins, not Martin. I mean, Martin has a future. Martin's great. Seidel's nothing.
Oh, he's good. He's good in the ring. I mean,
not great, but there's nothing there. I think there's way more of a future. There's way more money in Dante Martin. And yeah, Seidel's good, but like the shit that Martin does is incredible. Just like physically and all of that. And Punk really put him over amazingly well, saying like this kid's special and shit like that. You know, Punk did a great job of doing that with a lot of guys last night. So yeah, I don't think you lose anything by having Seidel get pinned. Him and his brother are mostly going to be on Dark, but I think that, you know, wins and losses matter and all of that. It's better to have Dante Martin have as clean of a record as possible. And then yeah, Lambert, I don't think there's a worse miscasting in wrestling since Paul Roma as a horseman than fucking Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page as real men.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It just doesn't work. They're nerds. Like, I like those guys. They're fun. But, you know, it's like Ethan Page even had a garbagey match with Darby, you know, because he's talking, you know, like Lambert's like these 5'8" guys.
Yeah, I mean, he did a kung fu character where he fought himself.
Yeah, he does kicks and flips. It's like, those are the guys next to you. They feel out of place with the real MMA athletes. They're like nerdy dudes. They look like the guys who should be feuding with this. And also, Archer like attacked Lambert, and now Archer's not even a part of it. Now it's Jericho. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's like a 50-year-old.
Well, yeah, because he's got to defend someone else's theme song not getting played all the way through.
Yeah. A 50-year-old man yelling at a 52-year-old man. At each other's clouds. This is fucking boring. I mean, I feel like if you're gonna use Lambert, it should be to push new young guys. I mean, it's weird also that like Hager is not on Lambert's team. He's the guy opposing Lambert. Like Hager would be a much better fit than fucking Page and Sky.
Well, I almost cracked up when they're like, Hager's undefeated in
Didn't he
MMA.
kick a guy in the
I'm
ball?
like, he's been fighting. What's his name? Who's the guy from the Wingmen?
Oh. No, but they said undefeated in MMA, and he didn't one of his fights end because he hit a dude in the balls?
Yes.
Yeah, he's had 2 fights.
He literally fought guys who had just gotten off early from their Amazon factory jobs, crazy, like how they're the tinnest of cans.
It's a step above bum fights. Yeah.
The real question with Lambert is, will they ever let him will anyone get to bring up CM Punk's MMA career on this show?
I think
that was weird that Punk tried to put over. He's like, there are UFC guys, there's Bellator guys, there's bare knuckle fighters, which are always just Paige Van Zandt. But he was all excited, and they don't acknowledge that he was a former UFC guy.
Well,
it's kind of weird.
Do you, man? I mean, come on.
Trying to make
kind of do.
Trying to sell tickets, Robert.
Yeah, I think you want to get away from that. I mean, it's fine if MJF says something later on.
Then don't have him on commentary for the Dan Lambert segment. When you know you're taking Punk out anyway, take him out before the UFC guys are there, because it's impossible to not draw the comparisons.
I don't know. I'm fine with that. I mean, it didn't really affect me. But hour 2, we have the Gun Club defending their actions.
And their undefeated streak.
Which actually made sense. I mean,
yeah.
They do have an undefeated streak. Layla Hirsch versus Jade Cargill. CM Punk being taken out by Powerhouse, Hobbs and Hook. And Hook yelling at the announce table in the most underwhelming way possible. He's like,
"Hey guys, move! Scram!
Move! Come on, guys, move!"
Guys, we got to beat the Sharks later at the Rumble.
Darby Allin versus Sean Spears. Daniel Bryan, Kenny Omega stare down, which we're getting in fucking Queens that I'm going to be there for, which is awesome.
You piece of shit.
Yeah, 2.0 versus Moxley and Kingston. I want to first, we'll get to the Gun Club, but I want to talk about Bryan and Omega because, look, as a fan, as Dan St. Germain, the fan, I'm pumped about this because I get to see it next week. And I get to see these guys probably having a great match in a packed fucking Arthur Ashe Stadium. It's going to be, one of the highlights of my life. But it is a little weird. They're doing the same thing they did with Christian first, which they're having the match that clearly Bryan Danielson is going to go over with, setting up for the pay-per-view match at Full Gear. Now, having said that, I think this match is going to be good enough that we're going to want to see the second match and people would buy it. But it does, I don't know. It's a little diminishing returns, but look, I'm not going to complain about it because it is going to be a huge show next week. What did you think about the second hour, Robert?
Gun Club explaining what happened several weeks after made me realize we've never seen Elias after he buried his guitar.
Oh my God, you're right.
When are we now we're suddenly paying off his Gun Club thing several weeks later? Jade Cargill and Layla Hirsch is why Jade Cargill is kept on taped shows. I realized they said she's 13-0. I've seen her wrestle once. And now I'm sad that I've seen her wrestle twice. She's far too special of a wrestler to put out there in these type of matches. And I know that there's something to her. My wife walked by and she was like, who the hell is that? And very rarely is she ever fazed by what's going on. And she's like, this woman looks legitimately very tough and very scary. And yet the match was really clunky and odd. And there were a couple points where they kind of lost their footing. She doesn't need to be on TV wrestling. And if she is going to be wrestling, it just needs to be quick squash matches. I don't think she loses any luster otherwise. They don't need to put her in storylines. I love what they did with Taz and Hobbs and Hook, because they didn't have Taz mic'd up. And by him screaming at Punk, and you're like, wait, what's going on here? It had a little bit of realism to it. I'm like, oh, they're setting up a match. Loved it. Poor Sean Spears, him and Frankie Kazarian can start a support group. But
it was a good match, though.
It was a good match, but it's
really
he lost clean. And then I kept thinking, is the Pinnacle still a thing? Because
that's a question I had too. Yeah.
MJF is out there. They don't acknowledge the Pinnacle. FTR wrestles, they don't acknowledge the Pinnacle. They just say that they're out there with Tully. Then with Sean Spears, they start talking about the Pinnacle. but yet Spears loses clean. And we said this when he first joined the Pinnacle, that he was going to feel like the weakest link if he was the guy that just goes out there and does jobs. I would have been happier if this match had a non-finish, because you had the cool visual of him wiping the face paint off of Darby and then Tully wiping the face paint off of Sting. And then I realized, oh, we're just doing this to set up the FTR match. I would have rather not seen Shawn Spears get pinned, but Tony likes clean finishes, so fine. The Danielson Omega thing, yeah, everybody now says shit because they're trying to be cool, and it comes across as really geeky and weird. It's like, oh, we get to say a curse word like we're South Park, and then they just keep saying shit over and over again. On the one hand, it feels kind of weird you're giving away this match so quickly. It's a little bit like Goldberg Hogan. On the other hand, I have to remind myself, this is a TV company. They don't have a pay-per-view for a couple of months. All they care about and all they need right now is to ride this story of ratings. And next week in Arthur Ashe Stadium is going to pull a massive, massive rating. At a point in time when WWE is against Monday Night Football, AEW is going to blow them out of the water, because everyone is going to tune in for a show that they built really well here, and you're giving them Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. I don't think that they're going to make the same mistake with the Christian situation. I don't think we're going to get a clean finish. I can't see them giving that away. But giving this match to the audience, I mean, TNT is going to win the ratings that night in a landslide. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Also brilliant, Miro's promo about Fuego del Sol, where he talks about everybody that I've faced and I've redeemed, they've been smart enough to move on. You haven't, so I'm going to destroy you and destroy your car, which I'm hoping we get a Street Fighter 2 moment and he just beats the fuck out of that Hyundai. There is no bigger main event than Eddie Kingston and John Moxley versus 2.0. Fuck whatever you're going to get in Arthur Ashe Stadium. This was magnificent.
I like all those guys.
I like those guys,
Mike
this was your main event. And then the Suzuki stuff, the Lance Archer thing is weird because he was off TV for a while and then he was back on as the savior of AEW against Dan Lambert. Then he got beat up and then vanished. And now he's back to being, Suzuki Goon Squad guy. I don't know where Jake Roberts is. I hope he's okay. And they clearly seemed like they ran out of time. Like,
I mean, they were in Newark, so Jake.
Yeah, man, I want to put Jake in Newark, but it's like
Jake Roberts is Paris.
You're brawling through the crowd, and then it just kind of ended. I felt like there was something they were building up to, and they ran out of time. But we're gonna get the great theme song war next week.
Mike, what do you think of the second hour?
Yeah, I mean, they always run out of time. Here's the thing. The thing about Danielson and Omega is, people say that Kenny's hurt, and I believe it. Although he's still having incredible matches, and Danielson, I still look at the bubble gum that's holding his neck together, and that feeling that, like, if we didn't get this and we were able to, like, we never got Hogan and Austin. And it should have happened at 18. You had them both there. You should have just fucking done it when you could have. I mean, and Rock and Hogan's a great match, and
it would have been a better match, I think.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, like, how you didn't do that when you could have done that is insane to me. And I feel similarly about this one. So I think it's great that they are. And to be honest, this is the thing that's selling that card more than anything. It's a great card already, but that makes it special. That makes it, you're not gonna DVR it, you're gonna fucking watch it when it's on. And AEW, you watch it every week. You often do kind of see a formula of how they program things, and their main events are half picture in picture and all that. I wouldn't mind if it goes first. Let them do a TV time limit. Danielson, Omega, you could have them, do some kind of angle or whatever, but go the full 20 up top, because they don't do picture in picture for the first match usually. It's like they'll have.
I think that's a great idea. Go
15,
to the time limit.
20 especially because they're doing it's a 4-hour taping, because Rampage is 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're the same audience is going to be there for both. So
Dan's going to be sleepy.
Yeah. And his dogs are going to be barking through the whole show. But which they haven't yet, and mine hasn't either, so that's good. But I just think, Sting and Darby versus FTR, that'll be fun. Like these fun Sting tags, like that's
What do you end on Dynamite with if
Cody?
Oh, no.
Obviously.
Oh, come on.
Let him have it.
Well, wait, are they doing the Ruby Soho match on Rampage?
They're doing that on Rampage, I believe.
Let him defend the honor of the woman who played Mimi in the Rent movie adaptation.
No, they're doing that on Dynamite. Sorry, they're doing that on Dynamite.
Rosario Dawson, like it felt like a Family Guy thing. Like, remember that time that Malachi Black got attacked by Rosario Dawson?
And what sucked the most about that, and they nailed his entrance. The lights went out, and then he was sitting there. The crowd erupted, and you thought you were going to get something epic. And then they literally cut to Rosario Dawson, and it was one of the times my wife was there, and she goes, "Why the fuck is Rosario Dawson there?" And I'm like, that was the reaction of everybody in the audience for a couple seconds. It was like, it wasn't like they hyped her earlier that she was there. I wish she would have been there with Cory Booker and he would have just pushed her in front of Malachi Black. But instead, she then hops the railing. Like that also was kind of strange. Like
piggybacking, like it's Master Blaster or something, like riding him. And then he kind of pushes her off, but not like in a violent way, just like in a somewhat gentle way.
And then why was Cody in the crowd? That's the other part that was I get if he was on a headset and he went running out there, but like Punk was the one that was kind of like, I don't want something bad to happen to Rosario Dawson. I should really go down there.
Look,
and then
it's okay if you make my brother to do a Norm delivery bleed from his mouth.
Yes.
but don't you dare attack Rosario Dawson.
It should be a great show this coming Wednesday.
But yeah, the last thing, Cargill and Hirsch, it was fine, but they did build Anna Jay and the Bunny for this week, so yeah.
Hey, look, Scott would call us all losers for talking about the ratings.
Yeah.
This week.
Guys, the show was dope. I don't know what you're talking about. There was a Lucha Bros package with Butcher and Blade. I'm so excited for that. I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Yeah, the Butcher's new thing is like threatening to eat everybody's pussy.
Isn't it weird too that we're not? I mean, we're getting Kingston in this big tag, which probably will be the main event because that seems to be the formula for the last couple of weeks. That's main evented, and then but I think like it's weird that Proud and Powerful isn't booked on this show. I would have totally maybe I guess they just didn't want them to lose against the Lucha.
You would tune into Rampage. They may show up. Not that I read the spoilers or anything, but more importantly, Zach. Having attended this show, how excited are you for Tacoma FD? Because that was on that was a Vince thing. Like that would have driven Vince nuts. That on the LED ring was promoting that show, which I get as part of the TNT family. But that's one of the things that he never that would have driven him absolutely insane. But Zach, how was the show live?
I thought it was awesome. I thought the crowd. I think the crowd is probably the best part about it because I totally understand a lot of your guys' points from watching it. But being there live is a whole nother experience. Adam Cole is the most over person there. He got a bigger pop than CM Punk did. So I think everyone is pretty happy about Adam Cole.
Were you bummed that you didn't get to see Punk do anything besides commentary?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of that. I'm glad once after the first hour ended and then he got attacked, I was like, okay, at least we only have to go back and rewatch the first hour to hear his commentary. But no, I didn't mind it. I think Scott's going to make a lot of the same points I would make. So for the listeners, just tune in for when Scott...
you got Scott's audio and it's mostly him sobbing.
Pretty much.
It's literally him just singing Judas.
All right. Well,
which also one of the reasons I would love to go to an AEW show is to hear the crowd live singing Judas. I feel like that seems like a really fun little of the moment thing. That won't be around in 6 months or a year's time.
Yeah, Lord knows nobody else will be. Next up, It's the We Must Hate Ourselves World Cup. We got a big entry this week, folks. The Final Solution versus Fake Diesel and Razor Ramon. So this is a tough one to talk about because I'm going to go and say Fake Diesel and Razor is probably a worse gimmick, because like the thing about the Final Solution is like the Holocaust is like the worst thing ever, right? So like a heel being the Holocaust, you got to almost like, if you say it's not worse than, if you say that somehow, I don't know how to answer this. I will say that I thought that in principle, the Fake Diesel and Razor idea was an interesting idea. But the thing that they fucked up with is that JR was doing it and people love JR. So when he cut the heel promo, they were already cheering him. And I think that the reason it's worse is that the fake Diesel and Razor thing went on forever, and they changed Final Solution's name to Jeep Swenson pretty fast. So, because they kind of realized how much of an eyesore it was. And even but by a monster heel, I mean, the Holocaust is like the ultimate monster heel, right? So I don't know. Let me talk to two Jewish guys. What they think about this? Robert, what's the worst gimmick? Fake Diesel?
Man, what a great pick for Yom Kippur, huh?
I was gonna say holiest week of the year. And my favorite part about the Final Solution is WCW claiming they had no idea that this came from the Holocaust. Like they were just like, this sounds really cool, but why does it seem familiar? I don't know. I'm sure we're fine with it. The only reason people know who Jeep Swenson is because he was Bane in Batman and Robin. It was a forgettable, like, we're gonna make you as a Hogan villain, and didn't do anything with it. I love Fake Razor and Fake Diesel. That is one of my favorite things ever, because it is one of the few intersections of wrestling and law that you're ever going to get. They created Fake Razor and Fake Diesel solely to prove their intellectual property case against WCW, because when Hall and Nash showed up as part of the NWO, WWF sued them saying, you guys are playing our characters that we own. And to prove that we own those characters, we're going to recast two other guys as Razor and Diesel. And it was awesome. The build up to it, because this was surly heel Jim Ross, which the crowd loves Jim Ross, but it was red ass JR before you realize it's not an act and he's just a bitter, angry old man. But him doing the hotline where he's like, you're going to hear Razor and Diesel coming back. You hear that, Vince? You hear what I was able to do for you? I got Razor and Diesel coming back. And it worked in this very just strange, bizarre way. And then my favorite part of it is WWE won the lawsuit against WCW. And Jerry McDivitt tells the story that the money that they won from that lawsuit was the money they used to buy WCW after it went out of business.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It is the ultimate fuck you. It is why I love the Fake Razor and Diesel to no end. It's great.
So you think Final Solution is the worst gimmick?
Because you're using clearly something that's horribly offensive for something that's completely forgettable. And that's what makes it infinitely worse than it should be. It's like a bad wrestler who comes out in a Klan costume.
Mike, what's the worst gimmick?
Well, yeah, I mean, also based on real life events, we know that Hogan would team with the Final Solution. So it doesn't even work. It's also, what's funny is that WCW's actual Final Solution was hiring Vince Russo to be head writer. It truly was their Final Solution. I love the idea of Diesel and fake Diesel and Razor. Rick Bogner, rest in peace. Glenn Jacobs, please don't destroy any more laws. Because it really is Vince at his purest. That belief that we make stars, that it's not the talent, it's our ideas, it's our creative, that it wasn't Kevin Nash, and it wasn't Scott Hall that people cheered. It was a white guy pretending to be a Cuban and a dude who thinks he's a truck. Two types of weird appropriation.
Hey, if he could have three Ultimate Warriors, he could have two Diesels.
I mean, what's funny about it too is that Fake Diesel is like pretty prominent. I remember I was hanging out with Dan years ago, and I'd never seen the '97 Royal Rumble. And he's like, is he in the final four? He's like fucking deep in it.
He's pretty far in there, yeah.
Yeah,
Hey man,
and so,
Kane was always good at Rumbles, no matter what the gimmick was.
Yeah, and I mean, and let it be a lesson. Just keep your fucking mouth shut and do the job that's asked of you, because he did yank him, he did that, and then he finally got the gimmick that fucking worked.
He was a wrestling Christmas tree. He was the
Yeah,
Unabomber.
Unabomber was a good gimmick, man.
Yeah.
All right. I hate the uncomfortable pauses after I speak. I really do.
Mike and I are both thinking the same things, and it's like the brain just can't. It stops working. It's going too fast. It's Glenn Jacobs and Ted Kaczynski are.
I don't support the Unabomber's actions, just some of his beliefs.
I just don't know
His
if I could
penmanship
be like,
was excellent.
I don't know if I could be like Final Solution bad, Unabomber good. It's all kind of weird. But I would say that the worst gimmick is I'm gonna go. I think it is because one is just a shitty name, and then they changed the name. I think Fake Diesel and Fake Razor really showed the arrogance of Vince in a way that we had not seen before.
Next thing you're telling me you don't like Mini Vader and Mini Mankind.
I don't.
What a monster.
Mike, once again,
like
proving he is a self-hating Jew.
I'd like, how come they didn't call him lowercase t?
Zach, who do you got? What do you think is the worst gimmick?
I loved Bane and Batman and Robin, so I'm gonna say, no, the Final Solution's probably worse.
Wow, so we gotta see Scott. I'm gonna text him. Worst gimmick. He's gonna be our tiebreaker.
He's gonna be on stage. Hold on, guys. I need to tell these guys what the better wrestling.
Like, you guys are nerds. The Holocaust was dope.
Hey, let's check in with our Twitterverse. What do we got this week, Mike?
All right, this was a fun one. I asked the Twitterverse. So, and this happened again just today, but for 2 weeks in a row now, Dynamite has beaten Raw in the 18-49 demo, and for a third week is Robert.
And did they beat them ratings wise this week?
What's that?
Did they just straight up beat them ratings wise this week?
I don't think they did. No, but they did beat them in the demo. That those 55-year-olds who can't get enough of Dewdrop keep the Raw train chugging along. But I did ask the Twitterverse, because this is a big moment for AEW. What did Tony Khan do to celebrate? So we have at Vierenzen phone. He put on his Scott Hall denim from 1996 and yelled into the mirror, "One more for the good guys." At Bleeding Blue _Blue 20, Tony took out his WWE Elite Macho King figure from its box and finally booked him over Hogan. At C. Duran, he made his dad put the rating sheet on the fridge. Then Tony shouted, "3 more and I get a free personal pan pizza." At Belly Float, he had a huge blowout party. It had cake, candy, ice cream, soda pop, you name it. Everyone was there. Tony and all his action figures partied until bedtime. At BitWT, he may have touched a woman for the first time, caught cooties, took the rest of the day off, and saw Lawrence and the Jags take the first of at least a dozen losses this year. At Lucha Safety Bros, he had every prostitute in Jacksonville go over to his mansion, not to have sex with him, but to have them listen to a new promo he's working on. At Mark number 7, a line of cocaine off the back of his favorite Big Show action figure. At Chris Economatis, cosplayed an episode of Miss TV or The Dirt Sheet with Trevor Lawrence playing John Morrison. At Willie Chuck Jr., filed a restraining order against Scott Chaplin. At Don Hashi, bought some more friends. At Beast Eastman, blinked for the first time in 90 days. At Chom1AK, got approval to increase the entrance music budget. Christian was granted his request to use fellow Canadian Tom Green's The Bum Bum song. QT's faction now has the 2.5 Men theme song. at Mexico Studios. He danced the Macarena in the parking lot of the Performance Center at Show Off 1984, had unfulfilling sex with his wife before jumping back on the N60 floor and playing a celebratory game of backstage assault. That's a joke because I don't think he has a wife.
Yeah.
At Deej 15, when he got accepted to private school, his dad took him to the ECW arena. When he beat Raw in the ratings, his dad bought him the ECW arena. And finally, at Lucha Underrated, he built the biggest pirate ship with Legos you have ever seen.
I actually think that's true, man. I miss those pirate Lego ships. They're a real lot of fun. All right, Mike, what was your high spot, low spot this week?
Okay. We want to start with high spots?
Yeah.
All right. I'll say my high spot is the announcement of Omega Danielson. It's a fucking dream match. I'm super excited. I'm glad they're just giving it to us and not having, Brian be a Kazarian type that's going against, Cutler and Nakazawa and, all the other dudes. I'm glad you want this match? Here it is, and our biggest show yet. So I fucking love that they're doing it.
Yeah, well, there you go. What was your high spot this week?
I got two. I think first on a personal one, I think probably the MJF promo is the closest I'll ever come to writing for AEW. So that was fun. But on a different note, and this is kind of a low spot now that I think about it, we're an hour and a half in. There's a new WWE champion, and it's Big E. And that's awesome. This is a dude who has worked very hard for a very, very long time in the company. He paid his dues in FCW and NXT. He had a lot of starts and stops over the years. He continued to work hard. He continued to have a positive attitude and is now WWE champion. And it's a huge positive for the locker room. This has been a rough couple weeks for the WWE recently. And having a guy like Big E win the title and get this opportunity, I think is really awesome. And I hope that WWE makes the most of it and we get a really decent run, because I think he's got a real shot to be something memorable.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna hop on that and say definitely Big E is a high spot this week. It wasn't the way they did it. I thought was kind of underwhelming, but the fact that he's champ, and obviously they need to do something different with Raw. If they're losing in that demo. Also, I'm just pumped about going to AEW next week. I'm pumped to go live wrestling again. I mean, the card is great, but the fact that I get to be around a bunch of sweaty neckbeards like myself. Folks, we have not been able to really find a place to all meet up, but me and Scott will be there. So please stop and say hi to us, man, for sure. I'll start off with
be socially distanced. Not because of COVID, but just in general.
My low spot this week has really nothing to do with wrestling, but is Evander Holyfield as a circus elephant this past week. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that fight, but it was real sad.
My brother was at that fight because of course he was, but yeah.
I don't want your brother to kill me, so I will not comment on that part of it, but it was just like, I mean, they shoot horses, don't they? It was just one of these fights where, at least with the Tito Ortiz Anderson Silva fight on that card, it was Tito basically like trying to knock out Silva and like unleash this fury of punches that didn't work. And then Silva just like knocks him out once. It was kind of like cool to watch that, especially because you like Anderson Silva so much. And Tito Ortiz is probably the biggest idiot in combat sports history. I would love to do him as a roast at some point, even though he's not in wrestling. I guess he's in wrestling because
he was in TNA. He fought Del Rio.
Well, there we go. We'll
do it by the end of the year.
We'll find the loophole. Tito, we will do the roast of Tito Ortiz at some point. Yeah. It sounds like a good Patreon. We'll see though. So yeah, my low spot was just that entire night. It was just like, for a combat sports fan, I mean, hopefully this, and then the fact that the Jake Paul fight wasn't good, that there'll be enough of that where maybe we're done at this point. Who knows? But yeah, that's my low spot this week. Mike, what was your low spot?
I mean, yeah, that was, someone on our Facebook page was like, you guys should review that. And, you know, and they said it before the fight happened. And I was like, I don't know if Holyfield's going to die. And I don't want to commit to that. Yeah, I mean, it was brutal. The fact that there were people screaming "fuck you" and that this woman was screaming "fuck you" during the 9/11 moment of silence is like, I mean,
Mike, where was this fight again?
Hollywood, Florida, baby.
That's all you need to know.
I know.
Site of the death of Anna Nicole Smith.
Because look, there were "fuck Biden" chants, and that doesn't even bother me as much as the not being silent during the 20-year 9/11 moment.
Wait, did they say "fuck Biden" during that?
Oh yeah, no, not during that, but there was a couple other times.
The show, yeah, a lot of times. I mean, they even advertised it as President Trump, not former President Trump. And I just read that it bombed. It did less than 150,000 buys. And it kind of should have, because it was fucking gross. I'm going to, my lowest spot is the way Big E won. I don't like it. I don't think that it helps Big E. I don't like that they did it so close after the Nikki Ash thing where you end on a cash in. I don't like when baby faces just jump in and cash in on an injury. I mean, Big E is a great star. Everything you said about him, Robert, I agree with. And I think that he really can be a main eventer in the company. I don't think that having him cash in a squirrely, like Miz type way helps him at all.
I agree. I think it was less the way he won and more the fact that I'm glad they put the title on him. Dan and I broke this down, folks, on Something to Sports Entertainment with, if you haven't gone back and listened to it. And we both kind of had that same feeling of there were a million better ways to do this. This was a knee-jerk reaction to, we're going up against Monday Night Football. We have to do something to shock the audience. My low point of this week, another trying to shock the audience thing, is we're going to get Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel.
Yep.
It is one of the few big matches they have left to pull out, and we're getting it on a pay-per-view event that you're not going to be able to sell any tickets to, because nobody's going to pay money to go fly to Saudi Arabia to go see this show. It's a show that every year when they happen, I boycott them. I don't watch Super Showdown. I don't watch Crown Jewel. I don't tweet about it. I think a lot of it's pretty gross about what they do there. And it just sucks as a wrestling fan that this is one of the few big dream matches that we had in this modern time. And they're putting it on this show as opposed to saving it for a Survivor Series or a Mania. It just sucks. I get why they're doing it. I just don't like it.
Robert, don't worry. There's countless hours of Brock versus Roman matches on the network.
Yeah, but this is the one that stood the chance of possibly being good.
Yeah, the 31 match was great.
Yeah, but this is where you want the crowd to boo when Roman's getting the shit beaten out of him.
Yeah, man. I mean, I totally agree with you on this, where it's just then you feel like a sucker too, because like you got excited at SummerSlam and you're kind of just being like yanked a little bit. But the one positive I will say about this, Robert, is that it feels like we're coming back together as a society. We haven't had one of these shitty shows in a good long while, and knowing that blood money's a flowing again makes me feel like everything's gonna be okay.
assuming the plane takes off.
Oh, yeah. I will be covering it for the show because I have no soul, guys.
By yourself, I won't be either.
By myself. No, I'm actually having the Crown Prince on with me. We're gonna do a watch along.
That'll be a $15 a tier, something to jihad with.
Next week, folks, we got the Roast of the Honky Tonk Man. For Show in Hell, look, man, we've talked about who the greatest wrestlers are in the world. We've talked about who the greatest promos are in the world. Honky Tonk Man is without a doubt the best shoot interview of all time. I don't think anyone comes close to him. He's phenomenal. I just tweeted out, this is from, I think, Big Sean Power 10, but he put a Best of the Honky Tonk Man shoot together. It's only 13 minutes, so I found one that was like appropriate level for us to watch. There is one that's like 5.5 hours. If you've never seen Honky Tonk Man shoot interviews, like, every time you see a wrestler talk about the respect for the business, remember that Honky Tonk Man was also part of this time. And he has no respect for anybody in wrestling, including doing an impression of Brett with a stroke and Stu. I mean, he just does not give a fuck, dude.
No, man, he's the Norm Macdonald of dimly lit hotel room interviews.
It just sucks because, like, WWE giving him a Legends contract is the worst thing they've ever done in wrestling, because we don't see these great shoot interviews anymore. Because there was a good 5 years stint where he was just like fucking saying whatever, dude. As far as We Must Hate Ourselves World Cup, next week we're doing the Shockmaster versus Kazarni, which is the worst gimmick. Dynamite or dud, as always, and I'll have been gone to the show, so I'll give you my expert insight by being around all you sweaty fools. And we got high spot and low spot, so fun show next week. And Kevin McCaffrey. And hopefully he'll actually be on here, unlike other guests we've advertised.
Yes. Every time we have a guest, the forbidden door slams on them and something horrible befalls these people.
Yeah, so
Well, they
please.
get pissed because we don't play their theme songs.
Please donate to the patron, become a patron.
Donate.
It's the best deal. That's all I'm going to say, guys. Just become a patron. We got the best deal in podcast. What do you got, Rob and Mike?
Our Facebook group is alive and popping. There's over 200 people in there now. It's really fun. Lots of funny memes, lots of funny jokes, lots of good discussions. Every pay-per-view, every show, there's a thread. Just, you're not watching wrestling alone if someone else has the same snarky opinion you do.
Kind of sums up our podcast.
You're not watching wrestling alone.
Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at WWCreative_ISH, where I am watching Raw alone based on my timeline and the ratings and the feedback. Maybe someone else will watch Raw next week. You never know. Definitely subscribe to the Patreon and the Something to Sports Entertainment with tier. Dan and I broke down SmackDown and Rampage. We also broke down Raw. We kind of break down sometimes during the recaps of Raw. And
I love Robert. I love that you reviewed Raw this week, but then decided to atone for other things.
Yes. This was if it wasn't for this podcast, my Yom Kippur would have been a lot simpler. It's a lot of I'm sorry for what I said about Baron Corbin. I really
did you really have to go through the list of wrestlers you apologize for on Yom Kippur?
Yeah, but there weren't that many I felt bad about making fun of, so we were fine. But thanks for listening, and happy birthday to fan of the show, Mike Lewis, who I know is listening, and congratulations to Arda Ocal, who formerly Kyle Edwards in the WWE as an announcer. Not only has he been getting to do SportsCenter recently, he just announced today he's going to be one of the faces of the NHL on ESPN, which I know is a lifelong dream for him, other than having to work for Kevin Dunn. So congratulations, Arda. It's great when good things happen to people from this shitty business.
You hear that, Adnan Kirk? There's still hope. Somewhere buried in a fucking under a mound of coke at a Howard Johnson motel.
And 10,000 copies of E.T. the Atari game.
All right, folks. Zach, what you got for us?
I'll be at AEW next week too.
Where Dan and Scott will still not meet up with you.
Zach, the 1 week that you went to a live wrestling show, you say you don't say wash your hands. This is the time you should wash your fucking hands.
And then I was going to say, and I'll be sure to wash my hands.
Nice.
All right, Zach. Well, we'll run into each other there for sure. All right. Well, I guess that's the show, guys. Also, I believe AJ Styles is right on all his flat Earth beliefs. All right. Have a good one.
And now it's my time to review Dynamite. I was there live, and it's one of those events that an AEW event, I'm assuming if they're all like this, which so far on television I've seen they are, is you leave with COVID symptoms and you hope it's not COVID. My voice was shot to shit last night. I was supposed to record this last night. I could not speak at all. Today I've been clearing my throat. So, it was a lot of fun. We were a rowdy crowd for the most part. You get there, first off, this arena is gigantic. I know it was one of their bigger crowds, but walking up to it and seeing this place, you go, holy shit, this wrestling company made it. But anyway, enough of kissing ass. I just want to review it proper, and then I'll get out. So first, I do want to say you get there, and you wonder, why is everybody so hyped at these AEW shows? Why does everybody seem to be having such a good time, you know? And it's because you get there and things are already starting. Like every time I've ever been to a wrestling event, the first hour or two is time wasted sitting down, relaxing, stuffing your face, even though you ate before you left. You're hungry again. You want nachos with cheese. The amount of people that were eating chicken fingers while screaming for Sunny Kiss was unbelievable. People didn't have time to do anything but freak out and watch wrestling, to the point where people in my section were confused as to when to go to the bathroom because it was just non-stop. And I'm talking about from dark elevation. So first off, you walk into the pit, into the building, right? Tony Khan is standing on top of the escalator. You know, he's saying, "Close your eyes, make a wish." What is that? He goes, "Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination." Like immediately there are good vibes in the air. You got a golden ticket. You're here to party. You're here to meet Wonka. Wonka comes out. He's a bit, you know what? He's strange. He's different, but we'll get to that. When I walked in and we showed up a little late, the show started at 7. So I missed the first few matches. But by the time I walked in and Dark was taping, it was Joey Janela versus Sunny Kiss, and they beat the shit out of each other. Janela was busted open the hard way. Really awesome, risky moves by Sunny. Sunny had it like all figured out, at least in this match. Sunny was unbelievable in this match. They're both from Jersey. We flipped out, and then at the end of the match, I don't want to spoil it, but watch AEW Dark Elevation on YouTube because it was genuinely awesome. This match happened. People were freaking out, right? Next thing you know, Proud and Powerful music play, right? They're fighting some local dudes. They do amazing. It's like a 5-minute squash, and they're just nailing all of these amazing moves. My buddy turned to me and he was like, "I knew they were good. I didn't know they were this good." They're unbelievable. I knew they were that good. I'm sure, you know, a lot of you guys did. It was a really fun match. And then Tony Khan comes out, and then the Acclaimed interrupts him, and they bust his balls. They're playing off of Max Caster getting in trouble. And that was actually really fun, despite Tony's shortcomings on acting like a human. And then the show starts. CM Punk comes out. Everybody loses their shit. He goes to the commentary booth. I haven't watched the episode yet, but I heard he did a great job. Obviously, we didn't hear him do shit. We just saw him get beat up by Hook, and that was good enough for us. We chanted his name throughout the night randomly, but not in a we're mad we can't hear you way. We were just happy he was there, and we were chanting his name. He was super over. Immediately after Punk comes out, maybe the most over guy of the night comes out, Adam Cole. People lose their shit. Rewatch the entrance. That Adam Cole Bebe was loud as hell. And then, you know, he fights Frankie Kazarian. And when you're there live, you have to like watch his Titantron as well. You know, you see all of it, and they got to change the Titantron. It's like he's like the Elite Killer, but the Titantron, he's like wrangling a horse or something. He's like shining cowboy. I don't even know what he's doing. It's cowboy themed, kind of like cowboy calendar themed. He's a cowboy, but he's been to the city, you know, one of those cowboys. Anyway, this match was a lot of fun. The Shawn Michaels super kick spot, people went nuts for it. The finish, people went nuts. Cole uniting the super click, when he mentioned that, people really dug that. And then we went what right into MJF. Let me bring up the results so I don't miss anything. Dude, MJF comes out. We, at least in my section, didn't catch almost anything he said, and not because the mics were bad. The mics were perfect tonight. From the standpoint of being there live, everything seemed to be functioning great. in terms of entrance, pyro, music, mic. It all sounded awesome. But we couldn't hear MJF because about 10 seconds into him talking, we started booing the shit out of him. I mean, we booed him when he came out already, but once we knew it was going to be about Pillman, everybody booed the hell out of him. I could not hear him at all. I don't know what he said. I saw him point at the ground. I'm assuming he stepped on it. He was talking about Brian Pillman Sr. We don't know. No one in my section knows what he said. That's how loud we were booing. And that's how fun it was. We weren't mad about it. We're not a bunch of fucking curmudgeons. We'll watch it eventually. You know, we'll hear what he said. All we knew is MJF was out there and he's a piece of shit. And, you know, we told him that. We told him to shut the fuck up, I think was one of them. Yeah, it was a night of people getting heat. They came to the right place. In Jersey, where, you know, screaming "go fuck yourself" is so cathartic. It was so fun having a Dan Lambert come out, who I guess I'll mention it now. We also didn't hear a word he said. Someone texted me and was like, Dan Lambert was stumbling a little. Yeah, we don't know. We were flipping the fuck out. It was so much fun. It felt like it must have felt like you ever, like my grandmother liked wrestling and my dad would always be like, yeah, my grandma would take me to wrestling and she would try to stab these guys. And that's what it felt like. Like the heels got real heel heat. We were fucking mad that they were there. We were mad that they were talking. It was pro wrestling. It was so fun. And that's what the whole night felt like. Every match worked. Every match was a lot of fun. And look, this wasn't a card that was fucking stacked. Darby Allin versus Shawn Spears. Like that's not the thing I go, yes, sign me up. But it happens and it's great. It's damn good. The makeup spot in that match got over like crazy. And then FTR coming back out. And anyway, I'm jumping around, but a lot of fun. The MJF segment was a lot of fun. Dante Martin and Matt Sydal versus FTR. This was great. I think we had to cool off a little because of the MJF promo. So the first few minutes we were calm. The match was a little calm, and then Dante went off, and FTR is fantastic. I do feel kind of bad for FTR because something about when they come out, there's a silence almost where we all like FTR, but they're heels, but they're not heels enough where we want to boo them because any wrestling fan half agrees with them, right? And their ideas of what wrestling should be. So they kind of just come out and you go, okay, start wrestling. We like you, but anyway, yeah, that match was really cool. It was really cool to see Dante Martin live. That dude fucking flies. I'm not gonna mention any of the backstage segments because we got some of them, but some of them we didn't get, and we got in between the Dynamite and Rampage taping. Like the Christian Cage segment, I don't remember watching it live. Maybe I don't know. I was looking down. I know it was very quick, but I did see it in between Dynamite and Rampage. That was really great. Dude, fucking Malachi Black coming out and pointing out Rosario Dawson. So my section was a section over from where Cody entered, and my buddy and his wife were my buddy Damon and his wife Sherry. What's up, guys? We had a blast. They went to the merch table, and so they saw Cody. So they came back and were like, "Oh, Cody's here." And I was like, "Oh, he's been gone for 2 months, you know." But apparently people were trying to talk to him. Why he came out through that way, I don't know. I don't know how that makes sense. And how is that the area he's close? So Rosario's there, and then Cody come. I don't understand the logistics of why he would just be hanging out near the pretzel stand. But it was awesome. People flipped out. People had a lot of fun. Okay, some people go, what does Rosario Dawson have to do with this? It's like, dude, she's on a fucking show with Cody. How often do you see movie stars or actors or whatever the hell standing in the front row? It makes sense that a company that a guy she's on a show with is a fucking EVP. Of course she would be there if she lives in the area. She's dating Cory Booker, right? I think. So what are you talking about? It doesn't make sense. It was a good ass time. It was a blast. We loved it. We really did. It was a lot of fun to see. Then what happened? wait, then the Dan Lambert thing happened? Okay, so then Dan Lambert came out. And like I said, yeah, we booed the shit out of him. And then Jericho, dude, I'm not a guy who goes, oh, I'm gonna sing Judas. You know, I sit at home and I roll my eyes sometimes. Oh boy, Judas. I don't like Fozzy. But then you're there and Judas starts playing, and god damn it, I become, man. It just happens. It just happens. It's the chicken dance at a part. Next thing you know, so kiss my butt, clap, clap. Everybody's clapping. You don't know why. No one plays the chicken dance at parties I go to. Just saying, if you're at a roller rink for a kid's birthday, depending on your age, and if you have kids. Okay. Anyway, Jericho killed in this segment. Again, I do not know how it came off on television, but he was so over. Also, he wasn't advertised for the show, and everything is so strictly advertised for AEW by the day of showtime that you know what you're getting to a degree. So he really did feel like a surprise, even though, looking back, you go, yeah, obviously Jericho would be there. But yeah, man, that shit fucking ruled. A lot of fun. Again, we were super interactive, super involved. Then what happened? Jade Cargill versus Layla Hirsch. Look, I'll say this: everybody stayed for Layla to enter because she's from Jersey. So we were happy for her. Jade Cargill in person is a beast. She's a star. The match was cool. This is honestly when a lot of people went to the bathroom, and it just happens. This is when it happened. Don't get mad at me. Did I go to the bathroom? I'll never tell. It's not your business. But then this match ended. And then we got Team Taz confronting CM Punk. This was a lot of fun. Everybody loves Hook. Everybody loves Hobbs. And I don't know if you guys caught this. We didn't know what was in a commercial and what wasn't. But Hobbs sat at the entrance ramp with his, he sat like, crisscross applesauce, they call it nowadays, I think, to be politically correct. He sat crisscross applesauce, which was really badass, and everybody booed him. He got a bunch of heat. Was so much fun. Darby Allin versus Shawn Spears. Again, a lot of fun. Sting is super over. The end of that match was fantastic. People loved it. Then you have, Tony Schiavone brought out Bryan Danielson. And again, I don't know what was shown on the television, but it felt to me like Bryan's entrance was during the commercial. I don't know why I feel that way. Maybe because I started getting buzzed and didn't know what was happening, but it felt like part of that entrance or something was during a commercial. And then they knocked it out of the park, man. Don Callis is fantastic. Everything he said was funny and on point. Calling him a mark was really, it's either, and I'm a carny piece, or, I'm the carny piece of shit. And then going, but, also, if that's not why you're here, if that is the real reason you're here, then you're a mark. It all made sense. It was all awesome. I love that Bryan Danielson is like, look, I do know how it fucking works around here. I'll get to the championship eventually. I don't care about that right now. Right now, I want to see who's the best. I came here because I heard you're the best. I've seen you. I know you're one of the best, but you lost your balls. We're going to fight. We all, cheered like crazy. Omega, all he did was say yes. Again, this is a show where this live crowd didn't get the Bucks. We didn't get Omega in action or an entrance or in any real way. He just said yes, but his presence was funny. Him walking out was hilarious. And I'll say this, and I'll say it now before I forget. When they announced the lineup for Arthur Ashe, again, at least my section, I can't speak for everybody, we were thrilled about it. I don't know if it's because most of us are going to Arthur Ashe, but even though this was very much a show to set up a bigger show, we got a bunch of cool moments. We got a bunch of really fun spots and matches that we didn't, again, on paper, didn't necessarily think were going to be anything to talk about. And then when they announced this Arthur Ashe lineup live and they say that Omega and Bryan Danielson is going to happen next week, everybody loses their shit, and not in a bad way. We loved it. We're excited for the company. We're excited for the show, whether we're going or not. I'm going, but whether we're going or not, this lineup is fucking gadzooks. It's so good. And every match that was being shown on next week's Dynamite and next week's Rampage, people were just going ballistic in the arena because what a lineup, and so short after All Out, which was one of the best pay-per-views in years. And now you have a show that, might be one of the best shows of, in a long time. So anyway, that segment was cool. Obviously, I wish I got more of Omega and Bryan live, but it did its thing. And then the main event, it was fun. It was fun. At that point, I was ready for Rampage. It does feel like a long night. It really does. When people are freaking out from dark, from Dark Elevation, people are losing their minds. You do get tired, and then you realize you got Rampage coming. And, the Suzuki stuff, all of that was a blast. The match itself was whatever. It felt a little rushed to us live. I'm sure they were rushing. You know how it goes in AEW. They rush the endings all the time. I hope they go over next week with Omega and Danielson. I hope they do the overrun for like 10 more minutes or something. Let's go crazy with it, But yeah, I don't know what you guys saw, but they all brawled throughout the arena, and then Suzuki and Archer both stood over a beat up Moxley and Kingston. And Archer, I wrote it down. It was so fucking good, and I knew it wasn't on television. And I was like, I wish you guys got to see this, because he's standing over there and he's talking to like a completely knocked out Moxley and Kingston, and he's telling Kingston, you might have been born in the Bronx and raised in Yonkers, but you're going to die in Queens. And something about wrestlers being able to tell wrestlers that they're going to kill them, that they're going to die, is so fun. Then he looked at a beat up Moxley and said, after next Wednesday, Renee is going to have to raise that baby alone. It was fucking nuts. People went crazy. And then he was like, because, when it comes to Suzuki and me, everybody dies. Man, it was so goddamn cool. I hope they find a way to get the world to see that before their match, because it was really, really cool to see. And and then Rampage happened, and there was a lot of fun things, but I'm not going to talk about it. But it's worth watching for some things. One thing specifically was so over, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoyed Dynamite. I hope you enjoyed the other boys' review of Dynamite. I'm sure they noticed some things I didn't, because I was, in a happy place, in a world of pure imagination. So, yeah, that's my review, man. It was a blast. Go see AEW live. Adios, hermanos and hermanas. Bye-bye.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.